Alright, so in this video, I wanted to just briefly go over the Oxford Pierpont sales process at a glance so that everyone can truly understand where they fall in the process and how they interact with other people in the sales process so that we go from just having a data point to an actual client. So I'll start with the data acquisition process here. So everything starts, of course, with a spreadsheet. And the way that we generate our base leads is to have a bot scrape Google, and it basically says, hey, if we're searching for something like an attorney in a city or a mortgage broker in a particular city or something else, it's going to take all of those listings, put them all into a single spreadsheet, and that's how we get our most basic list of leads. From there, a person is going to actually go in and vet the leads. So they're going to try and find and identify things like blanks, duplicates, and they can't really verify the numbers without, of course, calling them, but based on other factors in the data, eliminate as much of the bad data as they can. From there, the lead lists end up getting distributed to the appointment setters, and that's who actually goes and makes the phone calls and uses the data at the very first stage. So, appointment setting. Once a lead list is given to the appointment setters, they'll go ahead and make the first round of calls. And so in that process, they're just, going down the list, making as many calls as they can, and setting appointments with as many people as they can. And during this process, they'll also identify any numbers that are bad, any leads that are just junk leads, and mark them as such. From there, the appointments end up going into our scheduling system. And so that's how it ends up on a salesperson's calendar, where we can now add notes, we can now send reminders for the clients and everything else. All of that happens when the appointment setter has set the appointment on the appropriate calendar. Now, any calls that were unanswered on the first round of calling, so remember, they were just going down the list in the very first round. For the second round, anyone who said, yeah, so-and-so is out of the office right now, but you can always give me a call back and I'll be happy to leave a message, or maybe you left a voice message or something else, that's when you would go now and make the second attempt at the calls. And so you'll get more appointments from that. And then finally, at the end of your day, after you've made all of your calls, you set all of your appointments, that's when you now send your end of day report, just to say how many calls you've had for the day, how those calls went, how many appointments you were able to set, and any other details that we need in that report. Now, after all of this happens, that's when it kind of goes over to the salesperson. So the salesperson is basically responsible for turning the appointments into clients, so long as they show up. So new appointments, in addition to being sent to the scheduling system, they're also simultaneously sent to our CRM. And what that means is they're sent to a special campaign that will send them a text message to remind them of the call, send them special emails, and anything else that they might need to really prepare the client for the call. Finally, when it's time for the call, the appointment setters, the salespeople will actually go and make those sales calls. And so they'll try and get in contact with as many people that are on their appointment list as possible, and anytime that there is a no-show, they will mark it as such. They'll always make two attempts on every call, so 15 minutes apart, one at the appointment time, one 15 minutes later. And if they are not available for the call, if the client is not available for the call, it's marked as a no-show and sent back to the appointment setter, as well as going into a no-show campaign. Now, any no-show appointments are always going to be sent back and are expected to be rescheduled by the appointment setter. And you only will end up getting credit at the end of the month for the volume of appointments that actually show up. So it's really important to not only set quality calls in the first place, but also make sure that any no-show appointments are rescheduled, or at least given a very good reason for why they were not completed in the first place. And finally, the salesperson closes those appointments by turning them into clients, meaning that they're closing the sales. And so all of this information, the total number of closes as well as the total number of appointments, all ends up going to the team leader responsible for each team, who sends the end of week report based on the appointments set, kept, and closed. Now, after a sale happens, after a person goes from just being a data point here to an actual client here, that's when the sales coordinator is able to take over and start their process. So they are responsible for making sure that the client has all of the paperwork that they need, that the payment is processed securely, and that the account actually gets open so that our company can begin delivering the service, or if we need to coordinate with any white labelers, any white label partners, they're able to go ahead and take over their part of the job as well. So the sales coordinator will go ahead and process all of the sales every day as they're happening in real time. They'll go ahead and create those new client accounts for the white labelers. They'll go ahead and record any sales commissions. So of course we have standard sales prices, but during negotiations, pricing may change, which means that commissions may change just based on the lowered pricing that may have been offered to a client. So those commissions are recorded and distributed as soon as everything is processed. And finally, the sales coordinators do the job of performing ongoing client retention. So what that means here is we don't want to just collect a client's money, open the account, and then they never really hear from anyone again. And so by having a sales coordinator in place that's just kind of doing audits and follow-ups and checkups, we can make sure that all of our clients stay actively engaged. They feel like they're being taken care of. They feel like they have not just paid and then been abandoned, and everyone is able to stay happy. And as a note here, it's the sales coordinators who will really go on and process payments. So after you get a sale, you contact the sales coordinator, and they make sure that everything is processed and filed securely. All the paperwork is completed, signed, and filed accordingly. And that's it. That's really a very simple sales process. That's the whole thing at a glance. If you have any questions about your role in the process or anything like that, or if you need any training on how any of these individual processes work, just simply let someone in management know, and we'll be happy to help you.